Hello, we're back again. We'll be doing the torso, so let's go ahead and separate all the pieces out that we're going to need. We'll think about what we're going to do while we're doing it. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to add the shoulders in just yet. I might duplicate the shoulders and just add them in. But we'll see. So let's get this all shifted around. So we're going to take the chest out because, wait, no, we're not. We're actually going to do something different. We're going to take it out from we're going to take them out. We're going to take the arms out. I think we'll see about adding the shoulders to it. In fact, let's just see. I don't want to merge it yet in case I've got to do stuff, in case I've got to move it around. Do you know what? Let's duplicate it and we'll add it in, and then we can just chop off what we don't need later. So let's clone that. We'll put it here for now, so it's just out of the way. And I think we'll clone these two. We'll join those, and then we can add them into our let's do the same for this one, and then we can add them in, and then that way we can sculpt around it and make sure that we've got you know, all of the folds and the muscle moving the way we want them to. So let's go ahead and do that again. So we'll do that. And we'll grab the biceps and the triceps. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Oh, and we'll take the neck. The two neck portions. So let's clone that, and we'll put that in there too. Off the chest. And we'll clone the second part as well. And we'll put that in under the chest. Okay, so there's all the parts we're going to need for now. I think let's bring in some reference and we'll start sculpting this up. Yeah, so we're going to have to move some of this here, close some of these gaps, because it will just make for a nicer merge. So let's bring in let's bring in our reference that we've got. Where are you? Import. That's the one. So we've got a bunch of reference here for the muscle anatomy that goes into the back, as well as over here. I've got one where she's kind of like got her, well, look, she's stretched out here and she's crunched up here, so I found something that's kind of like it. So yeah, let's move this reference out of the way for now. And we'll start merging these parts together. So like you can see from here, there's an arch that goes over, so we'll start working on making that, sort of perform that arch, right? So really, I'm just trying to close some of the gap. I'm trying to make it flow correctly as well. So you can see here that this is like quite contorted. So I'm guessing that this rib cage would probably go up a little more this side. This might come out a little more to meet that hip. This here would definitely be coming back more, so we need to fill this gap here. Because again, we want it to feel like it's flowing all the way round and down, so that can probably come in a little more. And the back's coming from this way as well, so we could probably start moving some of this round and back down here, so that it sort of like feels like it's flowing from the right areas. Maybe we'll pull that piece out there a tiny bit as well. I mean, there are parts of this we can just you know, work on while we're doing the sculpt, but I think it makes sense to at the very least, try and close some of these gaps, you know, and like make it feel, like I said, like it's flowing in the right way. Oh, that's a problem right there. So realistically, I'm just trying to I'm trying to make it flow in the correct direction, because we do have some like some landmarks, if you want, on the base meshes itself. Like we've got a belly button here, so we know roughly where that's going to be. I don't think that's too bad. Maybe we'll bring this hip down out a little tiny bit more. I mean, overall, pretty happy with that. Let's merge the body. We'll leave the arms off for now. Actually, let's sort out the neck real quick. So I just want to close the gaps, because, like, honestly, sculpting the gaps closed once it's merged is just, it's not impossible, it's just annoying. So let's turn off symmetry, because we're not going to need that on at all. Which one was it? There's that one. We're working on the neck. Okay. Sorry, I got all turned around with my buttons. So let's just finish closing this gap a little more. And I think we'll do a merge. We're going to do a merge, but we're going to leave the arms off, because I want to be able to sculpt here and clean this up here a bit more without having to worry about the arm. So yeah. I think, let's have a look. The boobs are funny shape. They're not bad. This could probably come in here a little more, but we'll worry about that later. I just want to make sure they're not a funny shape, or they got anything weird going on. Like there's, I don't know, it feels weird here, like there's a flat piece, but I might be wrong. I might be, no, there is ever so slightly. It's here, look. It'll be the same on the other side, because I mirrored it over. Still a bit weird, but we'll fix it later. Okay, I'm not too worried about the boobs, to be honest. She's going to be wearing a dress, or like the top half anyway. I don't know if I'm going to do the petticoat part of the dress, because it's just, I don't know, we'll see if it looks good without it or with it. I think in the game I usually played either with A2's skin or without the skirt, just because, why not, I guess. Right, let's merge these up. Let's get these arms out, and then we'll merge this up. So left shoulder, right shoulder, out. Okay. turn off the swords as well, because they're just going to get in the way for now. Alright, okay, let's smooth some of this out and see what we got. Turn symmetry off again. Let's put this on dynamic topology. So I'm not trying to lose a lot of the creases. I'll have to fix this up in here in a little bit. But I'm not trying to lose too much of the creasing that we've got, because they're good indicators of where some of the anatomy is going to go, right? So oh, I didn't add the darn neck in. Hold on. Oh no, I did. So here, for example, I think that some of this will be sort of like smoothed out a little. It looks a bit jagged at the moment, but I'd still like to keep some of those defining creases, right? So that I know where they are, and it'll just be helpful later, I think. So this is probably going to be one of those trust the process moments, because like in the previous video, when I was sculpting 2B's head, I was like far from happy with it for ages, but in the end it actually looked quite good. So it's probably going to be one of those trust the process type deals where it's going to look really weird for a while. Like here weird, here weird. This isn't as bad. Let's turn that neck and head off. So let's just turn the head off for now. And arms off. Okay. So looking at this, it does dig in here a tiny bit above the hip, which is fine. I think that we've got a bit of an issue here. I don't think the rib cage is quite round enough or heading in the right direction. Alright, let's just start chopping into this and start sculpting it up and see what we get. So I know that, like here, look, you can see the arm kind of needs to dig in a little. We'll cut into it just so that we've got a marker, right? I feel like, yeah, look, because this as well is going to come up and over the arm. So this part of the bicep isn't going to be quite there where it is. Sorry, not the bicep, the pectoral's not going to be there. So because she's lifting her arm up, and that's the same actually goes for the collarbone. So the collarbone's going to be coming up here a lot more. Because it joins to like here, this part of your elbow here, so like in here, just below. Here's the crease that I'll do, and it comes in just below that. So if the crease is going to be here or in here somewhere, then it's going to stop just below it. So that's that. This is also going to come in and under the arm there. So this is again, like, I don't think that we need to do it just yet. So the same goes for this, look. So the pectoral muscle comes in and under this part of the shoulder here. So that's there like that. So that means this needs to, it's not in a bad position, but it probably needs to come round a bit more from here. And sort of like it's being pulled around the body there. So therefore, this part will probably be flattened out and sort of stretched back a little more. I think the collarbone's not in a bad spot. So yeah, you can see that it can't. If we ignore the boobs being on the body, the pectorals will sort of come down around here, maybe even lower to around here, and then it'd be pulling all across the rib cage. So I've got my hotkeys set up so that this one here, click it and it turns into a smooth brush. You can see it clicking on and off there. And this one here turns it into a sub, so I can subtract it and sculpt without worrying too much about damaging the, without moving around the screen, sorry. So I can just kind of keep sculpting. Okay, so in general, I feel like these are flowing in the right direction. This might need to go up a little, so I think that maybe moving this up a bit closer to the actual neck. This might make her body feel a little long, but here's the thing. The style for... You can see up here as well, because this is an anime style character. What they tend to do in Japanese anime with Japanese characters, and I don't know if it's Chinese anime too, or it might be both, or it might be one or the other, I'm not really sure. But what tends to happen is usually the legs feel like they're really long. And I think that because I'm trying to keep this proportionate, it may feel, I mean, I'm not really sure yet, but at the moment it feels like the body is a tiny bit long. But that's because, like I said, proportionately your arms would sort of like come down to about here on your thigh, right? If you were standing like this. So they might come down to about here. So I think overall that means that I've made quite a thin, long character. We'll see how it looks when we get into the sculpting. Okay. So this rib cage here is definitely like, this is not a good shape for that. Like the back overall is just not really a good shape. That's a little better. Okay, I need to stop the camera and reset that, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we're back. Got about 25 minutes ish. Let's have a look, see where we're at. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some markers in with the crease brush, just so that we know roughly where we're going to be creasing from. So the body twists around over here, so it's going to be that way, and we'll start moving around the body here and probably up to there. So that's quite the, you know what, it might even be more abrupt from like here. So it's kind of going to come up to about there, in the middle somewhere. We'll mark the back as well. So the back's going to come from about there. And it's going to go up through to the middle of the spine. So that's kind of our center line. Okay. I guess let's start marking some landmarks. So we're going to mark out the area that sort of where the abs kind of sit in the body. So if you look, there's like a ridge here that comes round under the, well, it's more visible here on this one. So scale it up. You can see it here too. So yeah, there's like a ridge that comes around here. You can see it there. So I think we'll mark that area out, and this is going to come. Let's turn the legs back on. So you can see it comes out here, sort of near to the center of the leg. So we'll just put that in as a kind of marker, so that we know where that goes. So let's start adding in the abs. 1, 2, 3, 4. So bearing in mind, one side's going to be quite crunched up and distorted. So we're going to make this side a little bit more, this side's going to be a bit more stretched out. So that's, let's say one top one. And again, because this side's, she's being moved and twisted, so that the abs are going to sort of start to move away, crunched up over here. I could probably make this a little bigger. And there's a small one down here, but it kind of like, it's not as what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't stick out as far, you know, it's not as protruding, maybe. I feel like overall this here needs to sort of come out and forward a little bit. We do also have, if you look, and you can see it kind of here a little bit, we've got some muscle that comes down the side, and the rib cage there as well. So the muscles that sort of like come up and around the ribs. Let's have a look at this back reference up here. So you can see it here, like they sort of come up and off and start to move up this way, and then they sort of like tuck into the ribs. So if the ribs are here, let's have a look. So if the ribs are coming through here like this, then the muscle from down on the rib cage is going to start to come in and tuck under here like that. So that's where we get this muscle here from. But we're not going to add that just yet. I mean, we might. Let's do the... So it's probably going to stop from about there. So let's put a rib in there so that we can see. So I'm trying to line it up with the other side. So there's the top of that one, and there's the top of that one. And that'll be where the other one is. And that'll be where the last one is that we see. You could probably do more, but I don't really know if you need to. So what we're essentially doing is landmarking areas that I know I want to see, right? So therefore, that rib there, there's going to be one there, there'll be one coming from here, and there'll be one coming from here. So... now what we've got is, so let's say we've got a hip here, so we'll put like a marker there for the hip, and because she's rotated down here, I feel like this hip's going to be somewhere here, so it's going to be slightly higher than what we've got it marked as here. So that will be where her hip goes. And because she's crunched up on this side, we'll put the hip there. I feel like that works. So, we might be able to move the hip a little higher, we'll see. So we've essentially got now this pad here of muscle, which I think we will, I mean it kind of continues anyway, and goes underneath here. So look, from the back, the lats are going to kind of come down from under the arm here. So they're going to come from sort of like, that's where our lats are going to be, roughly about there. And because she's stretched out, they're coming all the way around the body. And they do kind of like, they come down to here, but we've also got like all of this muscle in here. So there'll be groups of muscle there, like I mean, I don't think it's as visible on a woman's torso, but we'll go with this. So that means we've got a bunch of that muscle there. It's coming off the lower body as well. That'll be coming around and going underneath the lateral, I don't know, lats. And I think the hip's going to come around a bit more that way too. Okay, so we've marked out some of the muscle on the front. We've marked out some of the muscle on the side. Let's finish off this side. So this is going to be, like, we're only going to put a couple of markers here, but there would probably be more. So I would say that because the lat is being pushed back, it's probably going to come round a bit further up this way. So once we get, yeah, there we go. I'd say more of this is coming up here because of how far the arm's pushing it back. So we'll have that there like that, and that there like that for now. We definitely don't need it that high. Okay, so we've got that. Let's finish marking out the chest. So again, like with a female chest, it's still very similar to what you would see with a man. So if you see here, it kind of comes up under the arm. So we'll start sculpting that way. And again, like some of this is going under a boob area, so we'll yeah, it's all heading towards under here, right, and a wrap around underneath, so because it's all going to kind of come up here. So from under the boob, we'll have another couple here. And then again from, oh, so also there's a muscle that comes off the top, which kind of comes off the collarbone here. So let's add that. Let's actually get the rest of this in. So that, remember, this comes all the way around and wraps around. And then we'll have this one coming off the collarbone up here, look. Kind of slightly over, and then the collarbone coming up there. So that's kind of some of the anatomy laid out. Let's do some of the back anatomy. How long we got? 15 minutes. Okay. Once I've marked all of this out, I will probably go grab a coffee. Excuse the belly, if you saw that. Right, so we've got this muscle, this group of muscles here, which I'm not 100% sure what they're called. Traps, maybe? No. Oh yeah, it might be. Yeah, look, number 1 on here is the trap, trapezius. So I think it might be the traps. Yeah. Okay, so let's mark some of that out real quick. So it kind of comes from like inside the crease of the shoulder and up the neck here, around the back. So if we pop there, where's her head going? Let's turn off the hair. Okay, so we can see that she's looking away quite a lot, which means that the center line is going to come, where's the crease brush? There it is. The center line of her neck is going to come from about here, and it's going to work its way back and down and around, so it's kind of like rounded like that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Okay, so that is that. Let's turn off the head again. So that means that the trapezoid, the trapezius is going to come from the center of the neck here. Oh. It's going to work its way down and over to the top of this muscle here. And the other one is going to be much more bunched up, and it's going to come down to there. And then they're all going to start. So I think, again, we need to fill this area up a little, particularly here around the base of the neck. And then this side in particular, because it's the bunched up side, we're going to get this shape here is going to be really really visible. So I think if we mark some of that in down to somewhere here in the middle of the back, and then we can see here, like you can clearly see here on her here, this little muscle here and this sort of group of muscle that goes in underneath, while this sort of like from the shoulder comes over the back. So with all that being said, this one's going to be slightly more stretched out. But we're essentially trying to mark out the trapezius. Yeah, the trapezius. We're trying to mark out the trapezius and where it goes, and just how much it stretches out here as well, for example, because like I don't think I have a real reference. Yeah, so you can see it here. It stretches out a lot more, but because it's stretching out, you can see the definition of the muscles underneath a little more. I don't know if we're going to go that far into it, because she is going to be wearing a top. So it kind of comes from around there. So this is way more stretched out. There is a line here that kind of like where we can see all of this muscle underneath here. And then there's like a small, let's try and mark this out a little clearer. So we've got this muscle here, and we've got this muscle group here that comes under the arm. Now we've got this muscle group here. So Let's do the same on this side. So that trapezius comes down there, and we've got it all going down the back to the middle of the back. Then we've got this muscle here, which is, yeah, let's mirror it across. There we go. So we've got that there. And we also have this muscle that's coming out from under here. And then we've got this muscle here. And then let's have a little look at the back. We've also got groups of muscle here. So this here is smaller on a female, which will be under here like that, and that's all going to connect underneath. Well, it's all going to be part of the same sort of muscle group here, which is all going to come up to there. And now we need to figure out what we're going to do here. Why did that happen? Oh, it's been 20 minutes already. Okay, I'll be back in a second, guys. I need to reset the camera. Okay, we're back. Got my coffee. Tried to restart the recording and the camera died on me, which is annoying. Means I've now got to go through random footage. That's probably got like I've probably got like 3 videos that are all like 2 seconds long. So we were marking out the back. And it looks like if we were simplifying the drawing, you'd see here on this one where my marker is now, that it's one block of muscle, but that's not really what it looks like. There's like several strands of it that come off from underneath the lat. So let's I'll tell you what, let's block it in roughly. So we've got this here that's going to be our part of our trapezius, and then we've got this kind of comes down. So there, let's see, and then I think we'll start by, I'll tell you what, we'll block in, we'll fill in some of this down here, and then we'll go from the base here out and up. So we're losing that center line, so I'm going to mark that back in. So the glutes come up over here. Oh. But we'll worry about that a bit more. When we'll worry about that a bit more when we get to my EKG remote switched off. So my glove's making some weird noises, it's a bit annoying. So let's just move some of that back out a little. I'm going to switch to my other glove because it doesn't make as much weird noises on the screen. like that glove's comfortable, but it's got like a thick bit of padding here. Yeah, that's better. It's got a thick bit of padding underneath the palm of the hand, so it's, I don't know, it's just making some weird noises. It's a thicker material, a bit more of a grippy material. Okay, so I think for the it's tricky because we don't have a piece of reference per se. I mean, here's okay, but we don't have a piece of reference really detailing the muscle and how it kind of connects in here properly, apart from this one. And I think because she's so stretched out and she's quite long, some of that's just not really going to work for what we're doing. We could, I guess, bring the hip up a bit more on this side. Again, underneath it here, we'll just fill that out a bit to close the gap. So, I mean, what we got here? There's like a pad of like fat and muscle that kind of comes around over the top of the hip. So we could kind of use that as a sort of a marker for some of this. And then you can see sort of under the underwear line here, it kind of starts to dip in a little here. What we got? So I also think when we come to actually sculpting the arm, this actual muscle here needs to come round to the front a little more. So this part of the arm here's okay, but this bicep, actually we might be able to do some of that now. So the bicep here, oh wait, because I'm moving the shoulder as well. Yeah, the bicep is gonna where are we? There we go. Yeah, so the bicep's going to come from sort of like inside this crease here, under there, and it's going to push around the outside of the body where she's kind of mushed it against herself a little. So this is why, like this, again, this is one of the reasons I enjoy having my kind of meshes as a separate piece, right? Because you can still make tweaks like this that are just make your job infinitely easier. So that'll be where her body goes. Yeah, you can do small things like this that just make your job that little bit easier, you know, like now I know that muscle's going to be around there. You can see that that's already going to help with just you know, guiding when we get to sculpting the arm. That's going to help infinitely. We'll probably redo this nicer when we actually get the arm that we're going to sculpt in there, but for now we're just working on the torso. I mean, I might sculpt this in and then remove the upper half of the arm from the mesh that's left that I pulled out, and then we'll start sculpting off of that when we yeah, I'll probably do that. So let's clean that up a little bit because we are gonna use that. Okay. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. So what we'll do, I think, is we'll start moving some of this arm structure into a position that's going to be usable for us, right? So bearing in mind bearing in mind that this we haven't joined this yet, let's start marking out some of the creases in the shoulder. So I want to get a decent view of this because she's got this shoulder kind of tucked forward. Even though her arm's back, her shoulder's kind of tucked forward. So if we move some of the shoulder in, we'll be able to carve in. So you can see from here, look, it kind of goes in and it creates this sort of, let's mark it onto the shoulder. So it kind of like, it's going to come in here and we're going to end up with the shoulder kind of coming, you see that? So the shoulder's going to come round and this is all going to join and connect up here onto this part. So if we now mark some of that same area onto there we go, see how that connects there? That looks pretty good, I'm happy with that. So some of this muscle is going to connect up to here as well. So some of this is going to come from here between this muscle here, and that's going to come up and onto there. So that's going to connect forward there like that. And that's going to come over here. And then it will all start to flow from there. Now, because she's got this this scrunched up sort of arm here, this is all going to come under here, and this is going to go underneath here, right? So some of this is going to connect up under the top here like that, so that'll end up going over, that'll become part of that. This will go up to here, so then we'll end up with that connecting there. This will go underneath here, and then we'll have some of this muscle here will be going under the body, and this muscle is going to connect up under here as well. So we're going to have all of this coming from under here. That's going to be one sweeping motion from the shoulder. Then this is all going to be, well, because this is bunched up, that doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but that's not too bad. And we're gonna, like, the thing is, we're marking all of this out to literally smooth most of it out in a little while, because we want, like, literally, we want it to feel like there's skin over the top of it, you know. Let's start bringing some of this sweeping shapes back down into here. So from, you can see from here they kind of come all the way around and start connecting to the middle. So let's bring some of that back into there. We'll do the same from there. So bearing in mind as well, actually, if we put the crease tool back on, that's where the trapezius is going to end. So we could probably start filling in some of this gap here a little. So that's all going to be coming from under the trapezius. That there, so this gap will be what we can fill in, and that'll all connect up to the lats, to the lat muscles. I don't know what they're called, to be honest. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I know some of them, you know, like I've said before in previous videos, I don't really think that you need to know 100% know what anatomy, like names and things like that. You just need a good reference and I think an understanding. I would say at the very least a sort of understanding about some of the anatomy and where it's meant to go, because otherwise it's otherwise you're fighting against something and you're not really sure what you're doing it for, right? So I think we'll probably sculpt this one out a little bit and make it less visible, and we'll add another one in above it. Because I feel like it's a bit low and there's nothing in this, there's nothing in this gap, you know, to indicate that that's our rib cage. We are going to smooth some of this out and connect some other parts of the muscle together, so I don't really know if we need to worry about it too much. I do still think that this particular part here is a bit flat, so let's bring that out. We'll see how it looks when we smooth it out. For now, I think... Oh, come on, man. For now, I think we'll concentrate on this shoulder here again. We'll start matching it up so that we've got the same sort of like the crease there, so we know roughly where it's supposed to be, you know. I'd say it's about there. Because remembering that the arm kind of goes back a little. Yeah, I'd say it's about there. Maybe even a bit more steeper here. And then we can start. We can start adding in the sort of shape of the trapezius on the top of that. Now the last thing I want to do is sort this neck out a little. So I think we'll, bearing in mind it's all going to connect to here on the collarbones, it's going to connect at the front. So let's have a look, see how that looks from the front. That's not too bad. This is obviously going to need to be brought forward a tiny bit more. That's definitely too thick for that muscle, for that tendon, sorry. And this one's going to be a lot more crushed up. I'm reaching across the screen for. So her ear is going to be like up here. That's going to come down around there a bit more and connect to that. But now we need to fill in some of this gap here, because this is a right angle that you don't really get in the human body. And there's a lot of like muscle and tendons that come in underneath here, so that are sort of like, you know, they're going to help stabilize the neck and, you know, just have you moving around. So that one kind of comes up from there. And it all sort of flows down onto the top of this. It all sort of flows down above the collarbone, so that's our collarbone still there. Let's make sure that we can still see it here as well. That's our collarbone there. So because this one's a bit more bunched up, I would say that it's probably going to be a bit more sort of like this sort of shape here, you know, it's going to have a bulge in it. And then we'll fill in some of this gap here. We might even, let's cut in a little, just to define that space a little more, to define that area a little more by the collarbone. We'll do the same here. So for a rough anatomy sculpt, that's not bad. I think there's some stuff that we'll tweak as we move on and as we attach certain parts of the excuse me, as we attach certain parts of the body, like when we attach the arm. I need to fix this a little bit. The bicep's a little skinny, but like again, it was just there as like a placeholder. But I think overall, that's not bad. So essentially what we're doing, like I said, is marking out some areas, filling in gaps to make sure that the whole sculpt flows nicely and we've got the correct sort of juxtaposition on the poses. Like here, this would be a lot more creased up, a little bit more bunched. Here's going to be a lot more stretched out. Let's reset the video because it's been 20 minutes and we might as well. Otherwise we'll be 3 minutes into something and we'll have to stop anyway. So I'll stop this, reset the camera, and then we'll come back to it, work on this arm, and then we'll start smoothing out some of this sculpt that we've got and just see how it looks when it's smoothed out. So see how it looks when it's been sculpted to have skin on the top. So we'll be back shortly. I'll only be a couple of minutes, guys. Okay, so we have some anatomy laid out on this figure. I think what we're going to do now is smooth it out a little and start working on adding in like a layer of skin over it. So we're going to smooth it out and then just redefine some of these harsher lines. Because, you know, we don't want all this mess underneath. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, yeah. just going to pop smooth shading on the skin. So what we're looking to do here is, so here for example, the muscle, it stops here and the boob kind of just continues down. So what I will probably do is I'll probably just move that out slightly, because moving it, smoothing it, pushed the, so you can see where the pectoral muscle goes here, but it was just like a too harsh of a transition, you know. So I think the same's kind of going on here. I mean, it's not too bad. You can see the pectoral muscle comes down there. I think it's here. This is just too high. So we'll smooth that down a little, flatten this out. Check the yeah. So I'm not pressing hard on this either. Like the whole point, or the whole idea behind some of this laying out the anatomy and then coming in to sort of smooth over it is to not have to do an excessive amount of sculpting once we're in and done. So this whole section here might need to go up a little bit, but we'll do that in a while. We won't do that just yet. I do think I want to mask off the boobs a little, because I don't want to affect the shape of them yet, if at all, because I remember I said that she's going to be wearing a like a top, a jumper that's kind of not super tight fitting either, so we can probably some more. We could probably lose or hide some of the less desirable geometry. Yeah, we could probably hide it underneath her clothing anyway. So like I don't think the boobs, for example, they don't have to be perfect. It's mainly because I just don't want to lose the overall shape. I think that'll do. It's mostly because I don't want to lose the overall shape of it, of the boobs, while we're working on the front part of the torso here. So let's. Oh. And again, I think here, for example, the rib cage looks a little, it looks a little flat. So in general, let's remove the lower half so we can see that a bit better. So if you come over here to the hide function, you can just select large pieces of the mesh to remove, and it'll block them out. So you can get like under here to the boob area where we need to. So yeah, I think again generally it's not too bad around here, but like under here for example as well, that's flat and it shouldn't be. So I'm fine with some like tension here, but overall the whole area shouldn't be flat. Is that? Yeah, there's a mask there. That's annoying. Okay. So yeah, I think we can overall like start smoothing some of this out. I feel like she's definitely a bit too muscular, but again, this is the sort of thing that we can work on. So I think we're going to do that right now. Let's I want to bring the center of her stomach out a tiny bit. Can you go and get in your bed, please? Bed. Come on. Get in your bed. Excuse me. So I'm looking for places I can smooth it down, and then come back in and sort of bring them back up again. So there are parts where I'm trying to keep the detail of what we've got, at least some of the detail, because I don't want to obviously don't want to lose the foundation that I laid on the character. So I'm trying to do it and keep some of the detail whilst at the same time smoothing some of this down. So some of this would be pretty tense here, for example. So I'm not trying to lose that, you know. And the same can be said for here. So this isn't actually too bad here. So I think also like here, look, we've got like that dips in a little there. We should probably fill that out a little. It's here, this just whole area is a bit low. So I feel like this side here would probably be a bit more tense. Like you can see here on the side that's crunched up, it's a little bit more defined. So we'll go ahead and do that. So that's our So let's smooth that out a little, see what we end up with. I feel like we've got some random creasing here that doesn't belong. So we'll sculpt that out of there. We'll actually go ahead and add a little belly button in here somewhere. Belly button looks a little large, but it will do for now. feel like most of this can come forward a little. Work on the hip a little more as well when the legs get attached. But I don't think that's bad. What are we on? 17 minutes. Okay. So we've got a small sort of like raised bit here. I think we'll add some to this side to sort of bring that side up rather than smooth this whole side down. We can bring some of this out because I like where most of this central part. I like how that's looking. It's not too bad. Not sure about this part here. For some reason that feels a bit weird. I think that we'll work on this small section here when we get the legs attached as well, because to me it feels like part of the reason it probably feels weird is because there's tendons that come from the leg and join onto the lower body there. So I think we've got a bit of something going on here which I'm not a fan of. So we'll try and fill in this area a little. I think this sort of like outer edge of the abs needs to come out a tiny bit as well. It would probably be a bit more defined than what it was, so I think overall it's not too bad. So far, that's not bad. Because it's actually been like 20 minutes on here, I will probably quickly pause this and reset the video so we can work on the back anatomy. But overall, that's not bad. I'm happy with that, I think. So yeah. I like how this side's a bit more defined. Oh, there's one more bit there before we stop. You can see that this rib cage looks like it's sinking in a little here. So we will grab all of that and lift that out a little. But you want the rib cage to be rounded, right? So you don't want it to look flat in any areas, if you can help it. So like here, for example, this looks nice and round. The other side just looked a little flat compared to that. But yeah, overall, pretty good. Pretty pleased. Let's go ahead and stop the video and we'll reset the camera. Okay, so we're going to try and get the back sculpted, and then we'll see about maybe attaching the arms. Yeah, maybe we'll see about attaching the arms. I feel like there's something going on with the neck here, but we'll see what it looks like there, for example. Actually, let's just fix it now because I'll forget. I don't like that. I think it feels like there's a bulge in the neck. Yeah, overall so far that's not bad. Let's turn our attention to the back. So I think the first thing we'll do, like we did with the stomach and the front of the body, we'll give it a smooth over and just see where we land, and just find, sort of like pick the parts that we know we want some depth, right? So like down the middle here, there'll definitely be, like, that won't be there, so we can get rid of that now. So yeah, we're just kind of like, I want to smooth the whole thing over a little. I'm not pressing very hard on my pen. So I think we'll see a bit more like here. 2B is not as thin and like as the ballerina here, which I'm using for some of the back reference, right? So we'll probably have some flesh built up here, where there'll be a crease down here where the two parts of her body are sort of like pushing against each other. So I'm not too worried about losing an immense amount of detail on this part particularly. Well, any of it really, because like I said, I can sculpt it back in, but I obviously don't want to be doing too much if I can avoid it, right? So this feels a little off to me. I think it's because the whole thing needs to go up ever so slightly and feel a bit more stretched out. That already feels a little better. I think down here feels a little bulky as well. That's not bad. So again, over around here, around this sort of area, there'll be like, women have fat in different areas two, well, I say different areas. I think it's the same on men, to be honest. Over the hip, we just don't have as wide, our hips aren't as wide as all. So over the hip, we get a bit more fat that comes round to the bottom and over to the top of the glute. So we'll add that in now and just sort of chunk out this space here. And the hips are actually like the part that sticks out the most is actually like probably a bit further forward than you imagine, and plus, like I said, she's over rotating here, you know, so her hips will be, this hip will be kind of pushed forward and out a little, so I'm kind of happy with that. Again, we can work on some of this detail in here when we've got the glutes added to the body. It'll give us just a better idea of, I mean, that definitely isn't going to have a dent there like that, but when the glutes are in, it will give us a better idea of where some of this fat and structure is meant to go, or at least a better idea of where it's meant to go. So overall, the overall placement of a lot of the muscle groups isn't bad. I'll add some of that back in there. So I'm just finding areas that look a little low, and the light's picking up some spots and that, you know. So I'm just trying to find some of those areas and either fill in the mesh a little where I think it's meant to go, or cut in the shape again, or cut in the muscle again, you know. I think here some of this is a bit harsh, and this will probably be more stretched out, because if you look at where was it, this side here, the trapezius is sort of tight on this side where our arm's back, and on this side here it's really stretched out quite far. So I think we'll go ahead and add some of that and get this line somewhere that I'm happy with for the trapezius. So it'll kind of come down and around back to here where it was. I feel like, yeah, so the shoulder's going to kind of come so we can see in this one here, the shoulder's going to come down there. The trap's going to come off sort of like in here, around this sort of area here. but because she's stretching around and over, this line is going to continue and this part of it's going to be stretched out a bit more. So I think we need to fill this gap here, or bring this down a little. And then maybe cut some of that reference back in. Let's follow this line off of here for a minute. Because we want to define this muscle back in here again. That's what I'm going for. Because, and again, also because this arm's up, this here is going to be bunched up a little more, so we'll have well, it'll kind of be somewhere between sort of up and down. This one here will probably be bunched out a little more than that one is. Okay, so what I want to do is do one more pass over this side with it out here a little and bring some of this back out. So we'll just add some of that. Let's get a bit closer. So I'm looking to try and like work this gap out here a little more, and just bring some of this muscle back up. And we'll do the same on this side, but this side will be a little bit more defined, because she's got this arm rolled back so far. In fact, this side will probably be a little bit more tense than the other. So let's smooth some of that back out and see what we end up with. I mean, I'm okay with it. I can see where it's going, so I'm not mad at it. Keep an eye on the time as well. It's not bad. There looks a bit down, like it's got a dip in it, so that will need to come back up. But I'm not sure if that's because, yeah, we'll lift that all out now. So here around this sort of edge here is where we're going to get a lot of creasing and like fat pinching together anyway. So I don't know if we need to concern ourselves with that too much for now. So what I might end up doing is not actually merging the arms with the sculpt yet, and doing the whole arm in one, so that way I can sculpt the whole arm, and then I can come back and we can do a video on like working the creasing areas, right? So if I've got the whole arm sculpted, we can do that in a video where we sculpt both the arms, we get them kind of close to where I want them, and then we can do a video once we've finished it all on merging the whole thing and sculpting up the areas where the pinching is, like here for example there'll be pinching, and like down here and round the back, and anywhere like that where there'll be contact, you know. So yeah, maybe we'll I think I want to work on that outside hip. And I think that this is all a little, there's just a bit too much going on here. I don't think that would be quite as, there'd be quite as much going on there in terms of like muscle definition, you know. There'd be like maybe a larger pad that we'd see, particularly because this side's stretched out, right? So I don't think we'd have like multiple visible muscle threads, you know. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So because this side's bunched up, we'll probably be able to see more like a crease here, or at least one decent crease in here. I mean, it's kind of defined here already. So it's kind of defined in like through here. So I would actually say that crease is going to be pushed through there like that. And then we'll probably get another crease here over the hip. And maybe we'll get some creasing through here where the rib cage is going to go round. It's kind of frustrating that it doesn't. I think it's my tablet. It's just my tablet's quite old. So I think it's just my tablet. Yeah, I mean, that looks not bad. Let's push this tiny crease through a little bit more. And then we'll add some of these creases in here. remembering as well what I said about the hip. The hip's actually kind of a lot more forward than people really give it credit for. So let's smooth some of that back out again and see what we end up with, because at the moment she looks a bit like a roly-poly. I mean, it's not bad. We'll move some of this out just to fill some of this gap here, because it all looks a little flat here. And then I think we'll come back in and smooth some of this back off again. I might work on that hip placement there a little more, because it feels a bit weird. So if we measure it, so it'll be about there. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it, so I think maybe we'll call that for now, and we'll revisit the whole sculpt like all of the contact areas and anywhere that looks a bit off, we can revisit later, and just kind of you know, get it in first, because I don't want to spend a ton of time working on one thing only to find out that another part of the sculpt is going to affect it later. So I think, wait, let's finish off the back up here a little. How long have we got? 22 minutes. I've probably got a couple of minutes. Let's do this, just so that it's connected to the yeah, just so that it's all one piece and it looks nice. We'll do the same over here. Okay, I mean, that's not terrible. Some of this muscle over here we can probably work on a bit more when we actually get the arm attached, because like there's a definite, the bone's going to sort of come through here, so there's going to be the bone will be through here sort of thing, so there'll be a definite crease of fat on either side of this, so we'll wait I think for that. But overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we'll call that. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, everybody. Keep an eye out for the next part. I'll try and start pumping these out a bit quicker than I have been. But yeah, that's going to do for now. It's just a rough anatomy for moving forward for the rest of the sculpt. So, but almost everything's there that we need. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found it useful. Like and subscribe. I'm on Instagram and that now, so yeah, if you can find me on there, my link's in the bio. And yeah, happy sculpting, everybody. God bless.